Barry Karp, the chairperson of the Social Science Department, taking place on October 12th in his office, October 12th, 1994. Hi, Barry.
Hello, Carol.
Okay, I have a few questions to ask you. Could you give us your address and...
Okay. 10 Erskine Court, Nanuet, New York.
Okay. And your phone number?
623-8009.
Okay. Could you give us your age if you're willing to?
Sure, 56.
Okay. And at what age did you begin working at FIT?
30.
And if you could just trace through kind of your work history, what position you began at FIT?
I started off as an instructor, and basically for the first few years I was involved in the classroom, doing mostly teaching. I received tenure in 1971, and in 1972 I went back and finished up my doctorate. I continued to teach. In around 1974 and 1975, I became active in the union, served on many committees, served on the executive committee, was assistant treasurer, was vice president for faculty, was on the grievance committee, and then in around 1986, became the administrator of the welfare fund. And during that time, continued to do mostly teaching. Became chairman around 4 years ago in 89 or 90. That's basically, yeah.
And you've taught psychology
Yes.
courses from the beginning?
Yes.
How have you, yeah.
In the beginning, I taught mostly the general, and then I also taught a few sections of the industrial. After that, I picked up on the personality course. Several years later, I developed a testing and interviewing course, but most of the time it was teaching basically the general and the personality.
Has the industrial psych course been in place since the beginning of the department, you know?
Yes, it was. It has grown over the years because some of the majors now require it as a part of the major.
I'm just going to shut the door.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you seen other courses develop over new courses that have been introduced in psychology?
The most recent was the psychology of color, because of the advertising design upper division program feeling that their students should have some background in color and its effect on behavior.
Okay, let's see if we can trace through some of the changes that you've seen have occurred at FIT within the department or the school in generally.
Originally, the department consisted of psychology, sociology, economics, world affairs, and art history. And about 10, 12 years ago, it was felt that we should broaden the choices, and philosophy was then added to the department. And approximately 5 or 6 years ago, it was felt, one, the department was very large, and two, the art history discipline really did not fall in the same category as the other disciplines in terms of being a social science, and there was a split. So the art historians separated from social sciences. And currently we have just psych, economics, world affairs, and philosophy.
Philosophy was added as the thinking behind the philosophy being added later on at some points. Do you remember?
I'm not sure whether it was added just to broaden the choices that students had, or because specific majors may have felt that that major needed or wanted their students to be more involved with ethics and business and
Now, how did changes occur? Did you see the changes beginning with the department, or did the changes come from the administration on some of these issues?
I think initially when Gladys was dean, I think the suggestion did come from her that philosophy be added. Again, I really don't remember.
Okay. All right, let's talk about some changes you might have seen in terms of other parts of the school. Have you seen changes in the students and the number of students and types of students?
Certainly the institution has grown over the years. We have more students now than we had. In terms of the types of students, what I see now are the more non-traditional students. When I first came, most of the students were right out of high school. They were between roughly 17 or 18 and 22. I see older students now, certainly during the day. I see students for whom English is their second language, and that certainly has been a major change in the last few years. In terms of their preparation for college level work, I think they are not as well prepared in terms of writing skills and reading skills. They also prefer receiving their information visually. I guess that's a result of the amount of television perhaps and or computer technology that they've been involved with. And it's more difficult for them to open up a textbook, sit down, read it, take notes, etc.
In terms of the demographic characteristics of the students, most of the students female, 26 years ago.
That was true then, and it's still true now. My recollection when I first came, it was about 70% female and about 30% male. I think probably the ratio is still close to that.
And in terms of socioeconomic status, their background, have you seen changes in students? Ethnic changes?
Certainly there are more minority students now than there were.
African American,
yes,
Latino?
Yes. Asian.
And Asian students?
Yes.
There's still, my sense is that most of the students have, the first generation college.
Mm-hmm.
Was that true years ago that most of the students were first generation? The first students, people in their family to go to college?
Probably. I'm just not sure.
Yeah. Okay. And international students, do you see more international programs with students from other countries that are exchange programs?
Perhaps, I'm not sure. My recollection when I first came was that we had many students from all over the world also attending FIT. I don't know if the numbers are the same, but certainly I remember Gladys saying we have students not only from the metropolitan area and across the country, but that the school attracts students from all over the world.
Okay. Is there something that's occurred in the past in your experiences at FIT? What I'm doing now is just targeting, reminiscence of the school that you would like to share, that if you told stories about FIT, you'd like people to know things about FIT.
When I first came, we only had one building, which was the main building, which was the C building. The atmosphere at the time was a much more family-oriented atmosphere. Everybody knew each other, interacted with each other. Again, part of it had to do with the structure. That is, there was only one building. Over the years, when the new buildings were added, it became more difficult for people to interact. People didn't see each other as often. And the general atmosphere, certainly in the last few years, has not been this sort of family atmosphere. And the original sort of founders of the school have either retired or have passed away. And the general atmosphere is not as positive as it once was.
Is there something that's occurred in FIT in terms of the larger community that you're aware of that you think is really notable? Okay, do you have anything in terms of memorabilia, things you think that you would like to share? Pictures or something like that, old FIT pictures?
There's a catalog, not a catalog, a graduate...
yeah.
What are they called? Yearbooks.
Yearbooks. Oh, one of the old yearbooks.
There's an old yearbook here from 1969, which has pictures of the department and the school.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. I think this would be very valuable to keep on file somewhere.
Yeah. Are you willing to put it on file?
Sure.
Oh, all right, great. Okay, great. All right. Okay. Is there something else that you would like to say in terms of, the information about the school? Or some notions of where you think we're headed in the future?
Certainly there's much more of an emphasis on a global perspective than there was when I first came. Also, when I first came, the school was mostly concerned with fashion design. That was the major area that the school, and business. But over the years, new majors have been added, and the emphasis is certainly much more global as opposed to national and American.
Can I ask something more personal if you choose not to answer? Your daughter went to FIT.
Yes.
How did it happen that your daughter went to FIT, and what were her experiences here?
Her experiences were very, very positive. She expressed an early interest in art-oriented types of activities, and certainly one very positive thing that the school has been doing for many years is to allow high school students the opportunity to come during their basically junior and senior year on Saturday morning and sample the types of courses that FIT offers. And she did come for 2 years on Saturday, took several different art-oriented courses, one in illustration, one in advertising design, one in business. And based upon the courses that she took on Saturday, when she finally applied, she narrowed her choices down to advertising design. And for the first 2 years, she was an advertising design major and certainly worked very hard. Numerous projects. She stayed up very late at night completing the requirements. And then when she applied into the upper division, she chose packaging design and certainly had a very positive experience. The internship in her 8th semester allowed her to work at Colgate-Palmolive, which in turn led to a full-time job, and which in turn since then has led to a full-time position at Avon. So certainly the school has been very supportive and positive in her education.
Okay, if there's anything, unless there's something else that you'd like to say, thank you for sharing your
Thank you, Carol.
experiences.
Okay, thank you very
Okay.
much.